Thus, 1. Best meal to unclog your arteries, backed by science. You are about to discover the singular meal protocol that has been shown to actively reverse arterial plaque, not merely slow its progression or manage its symptoms. This is a profound distinction, and the evidence supporting it is robust. For decades, those involved in surgical procedures related to the heart have witnessed firsthand the devastating effects of diseased arteries, observing calcified vessels and plaque that has hardened arteries into unyielding structures. The common narrative surrounding arterial health, unfortunately, often steers individuals down unproductive paths. The internet, in particular, is rife with misinformation, suggesting remedies like lemon water, apple cider vinegar, or garlic supplements to dissolve or cleanse plaque. Such notions, however, fundamentally misunderstand the intricate biological processes at play within the human body. It is crucial to recognize that arteries are not simple kitchen pipes, and plaque is not merely grease that can be flushed away. Pouring a drain cleaner down your throat will not clear your circulatory system. The understanding of what truly transpires within diseased arteries comes from direct observation, from examining severely blocked coronary arteries during surgical interventions. The pathology, the intricate biology of atherosclerosis, reveals a truth far more complex than commonly perceived. Plaque is not simply cholesterol clinging to an artery wall. Rather, it is a complex immune response, an inflammatory process where the body's white blood cells mistakenly attack oxidized cholesterol trapped within the vessel wall. It is, in essence, an ongoing autoimmune conflict within your arteries. To genuinely reverse this condition, one must grasp its underlying mechanism. Once the true nature of plaque, how it forms, why it grows, is understood, it becomes clear that the meal described here is not a fleeting health fad. Instead, it represents a highly targeted intervention. Each ingredient within this protocol is chosen for its specific ability to activate particular cellular pathways and trigger precise biological responses. This meal does not cleanse your arteries in a simplistic sense. Instead, it actively promotes reverse cholesterol transport. It compels immune cells to release the cholesterol they have engulfed, inhibits calcium from hardening your vessels, and, crucially, prevents low-density lipoprotein, LDL, from oxidizing in the first place. This approach is rooted in advanced cellular biology and immunology, offering a scientifically validated path to plaque reversal, not through transient cleanses or detoxes, but through rigorous scientific principles. As we delve deeper, you will gain a comprehensive understanding of the ongoing processes within your arteries. You will learn why conventional advice often falls short, why low-fat diets can sometimes exacerbate the problem, and why statins alone, while beneficial, are often insufficient. Furthermore, you will discover the exact meal, the precise ingredients, and the specific compounds that effectively activate the body's natural mechanisms to extract cholesterol from arterial walls and thereby reverse the disease. This is not speculative theory or a fleeting trend. It is backed by peer-reviewed science and has demonstrated tangible results. However, before embracing this powerful intervention, a foundational understanding of what plaque truly is essential. Without comprehending the disease, effective combat strategies remain elusive. The wall of an artery comprises three distinct layers. The innermost layer, known as the intima, consists of a single sheet of endothelial cells. These remarkable cells act as a vital barrier separating your bloodstream from the deeper structural components of the vessel. In a healthy state, these cells are smooth and slippery, actively producing nitric oxide, a crucial gas that helps keep vessels dilated and prevents blood cells from adhering to the walls. However, when these endothelial cells are subjected to damage, whether from elevated blood pressure, exposure to harmful chemicals from smoking, the metabolic dysregulation of diabetes, or chronic inflammation, they become dysfunctional. Their ability to produce nitric oxide diminishes, they become stickier, and microscopic gaps can form between them. Through these compromised junctions, LDL cholesterol particles begin to infiltrate the vessel wall, marking the initial critical step in the formation of plaque. Once inside, these LDL particles become trapped within the intima. The critical phase then unfolds. If the LDL particles simply remained trapped, they would pose less of a threat. However, they do not remain inert. Instead, they undergo oxidation. Oxidation can be likened to the process of rusting. The fats within the LDL particle become rancid, and its proteins suffer damage due to exposure to free radicals within the vessel wall. This transformation yields oxidized LDL, which the body's immune system mistakenly identifies as a foreign invader, a pathogen, akin to a bacterium or a virus, something that absolutely must be eliminated. In response, the immune system mobilizes its defenses, dispatching white blood cells known as monocytes into the vessel wall. These monocytes skillfully squeeze through the compromised endothelium and transform into macrophages, which are the immune system's primary garbage collectors. Their primary function is to engulf and clear away foreign or harmful material. Upon encountering the oxidized LDL, the macrophages recognize its dangerous nature and proceed to engulf it through a process called phagocytosis. The macrophage's membrane envelops the LDL particle, drawing it inside. Within a specialized compartment, the particle is broken down and cholesterol is extracted. It is at this juncture that the problem escalates significantly. The macrophage becomes overwhelmed. It cannot effectively process the excessive accumulation of cholesterol. Engorged with lipids, it swells dramatically and transforms into what is known as a foam cell. These fat-filled immune cells appear foamy under a microscope and represent the fundamental building blocks of arterial plaque, the first visible indications of atherosclerosis. It is a sobering fact that even in post-mortem examinations of teenagers who have succumbed to unrelated accidents, fatty streaks, yellowish lines composed of millions of these clustered foam cells are frequently found in their arteries, signifying that the disease process has often begun much earlier in life than generally realized. The tragic irony lies in the fact that these foam cells, in their initial formation, are genuinely attempting to be helpful. They are striving to clear away the harmful oxidized LDL and protect the body, yet they become trapped within the vessel wall, unable to transport the cholesterol back out. Consequently, they remain there, bloated, impaired, and eventually die. When a foam cell ruptures, it spills its contents, including cholesterol crystals, inflammatory molecules, and enzymes, into the surrounding vessel wall. This debris acts as a potent trigger, provoking further inflammation and recruiting even more immune cells, leading to an influx of additional macrophages and the formation of more foam cells. This insidious cycle perpetuates, causing the plaque to progressively expand over years and decades. As the plaque grows, it begins to protrude into the lumen of the artery, the channel through which blood flows, effectively narrowing it. This narrowing can eventually lead to noticeable symptoms such as chest pain, shortness of breath, or leg cramping during physical activity. However, the paramount danger associated with arterial plaque is not primarily the gradual narrowing of the artery, but rather the risk of rupture. Plaque is not a static, solid mass of cholesterol. Instead, it is a dynamic, inflamed lesion characterized by a fragile, thin, fibrous cap covering a core composed of dead foam cells and cholesterol debris. This cap is inherently delicate, and if it ruptures, its contents are suddenly released into the bloodstream. This exposure instantly triggers a powerful clotting signal from tissue factors, leading to the rapid formation of a blood clot that can completely occlude the artery, thereby halting blood flow. The consequences are dire. If this event occurs in the heart, it results in a heart attack. In the brain, it causes a stroke, and in the leg, it can lead to gangrene. This mechanism, sudden rupture and clot formation, is the primary way arterial plaque ultimately leads to life-threatening events. What is particularly alarming is that the plaques most prone to rupture are not always the largest ones. Indeed, a plaque that obstructs only 40% or 50% of an artery, one that might not even cause any noticeable symptoms, can rupture catastrophically and prove fatal. This is because the critical factor is not solely the size of the blockage, but rather its composition and degree of inflammation. The number of dying foam cells within the plaque and the thinness of its fibrous cap are far more indicative of its instability. This fundamental understanding elucidates why the conventional medical approach often falls short. Traditional cardiology frequently concentrates on the degree of narrowing, employing stress tests and angiograms to quantify the percentage of arterial blockage. If an artery is found to be more than 70% occluded, the standard intervention is to insert a stent to open it up, with the assumption that the problem is thereby resolved. However, this approach often falls short of a complete solution. While a stent can effectively alleviate symptoms by improving blood flow, the underlying plaque itself remains in place, inflamed, unstable, and still susceptible to rupture. Furthermore, the very plaques that are not severe enough to warrant stenting, those that are only 30% or 40% occluded, are often the ones that pose the greatest risk of sudden catastrophic events because they are left unaddressed. They continue to grow, inflame, and await their potential rupture. This highlights the urgent necessity for an alternative strategy. Rather than simply widening the artery, the focus must shift to stabilizing and ideally reversing the plaque itself. The objective should be to actively extract cholesterol from within the foam cells and the arterial wall, directing it back into the bloodstream for transport to the liver, where it can be effectively excreted from the body. This vital process, known as reverse cholesterol transport, represents the sole proven method for truly reversing arterial plaque. The body possesses a natural mechanism for this, orchestrated by high-density lipoprotein, HDL cholesterol, often referred to as good cholesterol. HDL earns this moniker not because it is a different type of cholesterol, but because it serves as an essential transport vehicle. Its primary function is to collect cholesterol from peripheral tissues and deliver it back to the liver for processing and elimination. When an HDL particle encounters a foam cell, it docks onto the cell's surface and activates a specific protein called ABCA1, ATP binding cassette transporter A1. This protein acts like an eject button, actively pumping cholesterol out of the foam cell and loading it onto the awaiting HDL particle. The HDL then transports this cholesterol away back to the liver, which subsequently excretes it into bile. The bile then moves into the intestines, ultimately allowing the cholesterol to leave the body. As this occurs, the foam cell shrinks and the plaque itself begins to regress. This intricate pathway, reverse cholesterol transport, is the only scientifically validated means of reversing atherosclerosis. Despite its critical importance, the reverse cholesterol transport system in many individuals is compromised. Their ABCA1 protein may not be adequately activated, their HDL might not be functioning optimally, and as a result, their foam cells struggle to eject cholesterol. This dysfunction allows plaque to progressively accumulate until a rupture occurs or until surgical intervention becomes necessary. However, this dire outcome is not inevitable because the ABCA1 pathway can be activated, HDL function can be restored, and reverse cholesterol transport can be effectively stimulated, not through pharmaceuticals or invasive surgery, but through specific dietary interventions. This is precisely what the meal described here is designed to achieve. Before dismissing this concept as wishful thinking, it's vital to recognize that this is supported by rigorous, peer-reviewed science. Numerous human studies have unequivocally demonstrated that specific dietary interventions can indeed activate ABCA1, enhance reverse cholesterol transport, and lead to a measurable reduction in plaque burden. The mechanisms and supporting research will be outlined, followed by the precise meal protocol. However, one additional critical aspect must be understood before delving into the food components: calcification. Cholesterol is not the sole problem affecting the arteries. Calcium deposition presents an equally, if not more, insidious threat. As plaque matures and as foam cells die and release their contents, calcium deposits begin to form. The body, in an attempt to wall off the chronic inflammation, lays down calcium, much like scar tissue or a scab. Over time, the plaque becomes increasingly calcified, hard, and rigid, causing the arteries to literally transform into a bone-like consistency. This hardening is quantitatively measured by a coronary calcium score obtained through a computed tomography (CT) scan that precisely quantifies the amount of calcium present in the coronary arteries. A score of 0 indicates no detectable plaque, while scores between 100 and 400 suggest moderate disease. A score exceeding 400 signifies severe disease, and anything above 1000 indicates an extremely critical state, where the arteries are effectively concrete. Consider the experience of an individual in their late 60s, who, despite feeling entirely well and experiencing no symptoms, underwent a routine coronary calcium screening ordered by their healthcare provider. The result, a staggering 836, pointed to severe, widespread disease. This outcome often surprises healthcare professionals, wondering how such a high score could exist without overt symptoms. Subsequent investigations, such as an angiogram, might reveal significant blockages, for instance, 60% in one major artery and 50% in another. While not always severe enough to immediately warrant a stent, such blockages carry a substantial risk of future life-threatening events due to plaque rupture. In such scenarios, the conventional advice typically involves prescribing a high-dose statin, along with recommendations for a low-fat diet and regular exercise. An individual diligently adhering to this standard regimen, taking the statin daily, eliminating red meat, opting for poultry and fish, and walking every morning, might find their calcium score increase even further a year later. This disheartening progression, despite strict adherence to conventional wisdom, can leave individuals feeling devastated, believing they were doing everything correctly, yet still worsening. Faced with such a predicament, contemplating surgical options becomes a natural next step. However, if the blockages are not severe enough to necessitate immediate bypass surgery, the stark reality remains. Without actively reversing the underlying disease process, the risk of a major cardiac event within a few years becomes exceedingly high. The crucial insight is to shift away from the ineffective low-fat diet and instead adopt a targeted, nutritional approach that addresses the root mechanisms of plaque, including ABK1 activation, calcium inhibition, and oxidation prevention. Initial skepticism regarding dietary changes, particularly questioning the inclusion of fats like olive oil when advised to avoid them, is common, yet the understanding that low-fat diets often exacerbate the problem by lowering protective HDL levels, thereby impairing reverse cholesterol transport, is paramount. By embracing a scientifically informed dietary change, incorporating specific meals daily, and maintaining unwavering consistency, individuals can witness remarkable improvements. Over a period of 18 months, for example, a calcium score might decrease, signifying plaque regression and the reabsorption of calcium, leading to the healing of arterial walls. Such a reversal trajectory means that invasive surgery might ultimately be avoided, demonstrating the body's profound capacity for healing when provided with the precise mechanisms it needs. This is the ultimate goal for every individual facing similar arterial challenges. Now let us unveil the components of this transformative meal. This is not merely a recipe, it is a meticulously designed protocol where every single ingredient serves a distinct purpose and every compound activates a specific pathway. Substitutions or omissions of components are not advisable, as they may compromise the efficacy of this all-or-nothing approach. The first crucial component is a potent nitrate donor, ideally arugula or beets, and preferably both. The reason for their importance lies in their role in restoring nitric oxide production. The endothelium, the delicate lining of your arteries, is responsible for producing nitric oxide, an unequivocally vital molecule for cardiovascular health. Nitric oxide possesses remarkable properties. It dilates blood vessels, maintains their smoothness to prevent blood cells from sticking, inhibits the proliferation of smooth muscle cells, and actively prevents plaque formation. However, in the context of atherosclerosis, nitric oxide production becomes impaired as the endothelium grows dysfunctional and cannot generate sufficient amounts. Without adequate nitric oxide, vessels constrict, blood flow diminishes, and plaque progression accelerates. This critical function can be restored through a fascinating biological pathway known as the enterosalivary nitrate-nitric oxide pathway, a discovery in cardiovascular physiology that has emerged as one of the most significant in recent decades, yet remains largely unknown to the general public. Here's how this ingenious pathway functions. When you consume foods rich in nitrate, such as leafy greens like arugula and spinach, or beets, the nitrate is absorbed in your small intestine and enters your bloodstream. Your salivary glands then actively concentrate this nitrate, with approximately 25% of the blood nitrate being secreted back into your saliva. As you swallow your saliva, it returns to your mouth, and this is where the magic happens. Your mouth harbors a diverse ecosystem of bacteria, specifically certain species on your tongue and gums. These bacteria possess an enzyme called nitrate reductase, which effectively converts nitrate into nitrite. When you swallow this nitrite, it travels to your stomach. Your stomach acid then converts some of it immediately into nitric oxide. The remaining nitrite is absorbed and circulates throughout your bloodstream. Upon reaching your blood vessels, your own endothelial cells further convert it into nitric oxide. This cascade results in the dilation of your vessels, increased blood flow, and the restoration of endothelial function. This is not hypothetical. Human studies have concretely demonstrated these effects. Researchers, for instance, have observed significant improvements in endothelial function, drops in blood pressure, decreased arterial stiffness, and increased blood flow within hours after participants consumed beetroot juice, a rich source of nitrate. However, a crucial caveat exists. This pathway is utterly dependent on the presence of these specific oral bacteria. If these beneficial bacteria are eradicated, the entire pathway grinds to a halt. The primary culprits in destroying these essential oral microbes are mouthwashes, particularly antiseptic varieties containing ingredients like chlorhexidine or Listerine. While these products are designed to kill bacteria, they indiscriminately eliminate the good bacteria responsible for converting nitrate to nitrite. Consequently, if you habitually use mouthwash, you effectively dismantle the enterosalivary pathway, preventing your body from generating nitric oxide from dietary nitrates. Studies have confirmed this detrimental effect, showing that individuals using mouthwash twice daily for a week exhibited a complete absence of nitric oxide production and worsened endothelial function after consuming nitrate-rich foods, simply because their essential oral bacteria were annihilated. Therefore, to harness this vital mechanism and restore nitric oxide production, discontinuing mouthwash use immediately is paramount. Simple brushing and flossing are entirely sufficient for oral hygiene. Do not compromise the bacteria that are actively safeguarding your arterial health. Regarding the required amount of nitrate, studies indicate that an optimal daily intake ranges from 300 to 500 millimoles. This translates to approximately 2 cups of arugula, 1 large beet, or 1 cup of beetroot juice. Arugula is often preferred for its ease of integration into a daily meal. It will form the base of your protocol, a generous salad comprising 2 to 3 cups of fresh, raw arugula. Cooking can degrade some of the nitrate content, so consuming it raw is key. As you chew and swallow, your salivary glands will concentrate the nitrate, your oral bacteria will convert it, and nitric oxide will subsequently flood your system. Your blood vessels will dilate, increasing blood flow to your heart, and your endothelial function will demonstrably improve. You may even perceive these effects within hours, experiencing warmer hands and feet, a slight reduction in blood pressure, and enhanced exercise tolerance. This initial step effectively opens the road for arterial healing. However, simply opening the road is not enough. The accumulated garbage must also be removed. This necessitates activating reverse cholesterol transport and specifically turning on ABCA1. For this vital process, the second component of the meal is essential: high phenolic extra virgin olive oil. The emphasis here is on high phenolic, as this characteristic is critically important. Olive oil contains a potent phenolic compound known as oleocanthal, which imparts the distinct peppery, slightly burning sensation in the back of your throat that characterizes high-quality olive oil. This burning sensation is a direct indicator of oleocanthal's presence, and it is precisely this compound that offers profound cardiovascular benefits. Oleocanthal operates on two key fronts. First, it acts as a powerful anti-inflammatory agent, inhibiting COX enzymes, the very same enzymes targeted by over-the-counter anti-inflammatory medications. This action effectively reduces inflammation within your vessel walls, calms the immune response, and helps stabilize existing plaque. Second, and crucially, oleocanthal actively upregulates ABCA1. It stimulates the gene responsible for producing this vital transporter protein, leading to an increased expression of ABCA1 on the surface of your foam cells. A greater abundance of ABCA1 translates directly into enhanced cholesterol ejection, accelerated reverse cholesterol transport, and ultimately, more significant plaque regression. This has been convincingly demonstrated in cell culture studies where foam cells laden with oxidized LDL were treated with oleocanthal, resulting in a measurable increase in ABCA1 expression and cholesterol efflux, leading to the shrinkage of the foam cells as cholesterol was actively removed. Furthermore, the efficacy of high phenolic olive oil has been substantiated in large-scale human trials, notably the PREDIMED study conducted in Spain. This extensive research involved 7,000 participants at high cardiovascular risk, randomized into 3 dietary groups: a low-fat diet group, a Mediterranean diet supplemented with nuts, and a Mediterranean diet supplemented with 50 millinol, approximately 4 tablespoons, of extra virgin olive oil daily. After 5 years, the cardiovascular event rates, heart attacks, strokes, and cardiovascular death, were assessed. The low-fat group exhibited the highest rates, the nut-supplemented group showed a lower rate, and astonishingly, the olive oil group demonstrated the lowest rate, achieving a remarkable 30% reduction in cardiovascular events compared to the low-fat group. It is vital to underscore that the olive oil used in the PREDIMED study was characteristically high in phenolic compounds, specifically oleocanthal, reflecting the quality of fresh, cold-pressed, unfiltered Spanish olive oil. Generic refined or old olive oils that have sat on shelves for extended periods will lack the crucial phenolic content, offering merely fat without the vital bioactive compounds necessary for ABCA1 activation. Therefore, when selecting olive oil, prioritize extra virgin, cold-pressed varieties, ideally from a single estate. Look for a harvest date on the bottle, ideally within the past year, and ensure it comes in a dark glass bottle to protect its precious compounds from light degradation. The ultimate test is sensory. Pour a small amount into a cup, swallow it, and observe if it produces a distinct peppery, harsh, or burning sensation in the back of your throat. This burn is the oleocanthal. A stronger burn indicates a higher phenolic content. If it tastes smooth and mild, its phenolic content is likely too low to be therapeutically effective. Choose the robust, even cough-inducing varieties. The PREDIMED study utilized 50 ml daily, which is a substantial amount for direct consumption. Therefore, incorporating 3 to 4 generous tablespoons into your daily meal, particularly as a dressing for your arugula salad, is recommended. Do not be sparing. Consider this a vital medicinal component, where activating ABCA1 takes precedence over calorie counting. With nitrates for nitric oxide and oleocanthal for reverse cholesterol transport, the focus now shifts to the third critical mechanism, calcification. If your arteries are already calcified, with calcium being deposited into your vessel walls, nitric oxide and ABCA1 activation alone will not suffice. The process of calcification must be halted and ideally reversed. For this, vitamin K2, distinct from vitamin K1, is indispensable. While vitamin K1 is crucial for blood clotting and is abundant in green leafy vegetables, it plays no direct role in calcium metabolism. Vitamin K2, however, is a key player in directing calcium to its appropriate destinations into your bones and, crucially, away from your arteries. K2 achieves this by activating specific proteins that regulate calcium, the most important of which is matrix GLA protein, MGP. This protein is synthesized by the smooth muscle cells lining your artery walls, and its primary function is to actively inhibit calcification. MGP binds to calcium crystals, preventing their formation and thereby maintaining the softness, flexibility, and vitality of your arteries. However, MGP is only functional when it is activated, and this activation is exclusively mediated by vitamin K2. In the absence of sufficient K2, MGP remains inactive and unable to bind calcium, leading to the calcification of your arteries, effectively transforming them into rigid, bone-like structures. Once calcified, arteries lose their ability to dilate, impairing blood flow and significantly increasing the likelihood of plaque rupture. This explains why coronary calcium scores are such potent predictors of future cardiovascular events. They not only measure plaque burden, but also reflect the degree of dysfunction in your calcium metabolism. A high calcium score is often indicative of K2 deficiency, inactive MGP, and uncontrolled calcification. A significant problem is that most people are deficient in K2, primarily because it is found only in a limited range of specific foods, fermented items, aged cheeses, and especially natto. Natto, a traditional Japanese food made from fermented soybeans, is infamous for its slimy texture and pungent aroma, making it an acquired taste for many Western palates. Yet, it stands as the richest known source of vitamin K2 on the planet, specifically menaquinone 7, MK7, which is the most bioactive form of K2. Studies conducted in Japan have consistently shown that individuals who regularly consume natto exhibit lower rates of cardiovascular disease, reduced calcium scores, and more flexible arteries. Furthermore, when researchers administered MK7 supplements, calcium scores either stabilized or in some cases even decreased, demonstrating that existing calcium was actively being drawn out of the arteries and redirected to the bones where it rightfully belongs. This makes MK7 the only nutrient scientifically demonstrated to reverse arterial calcification in humans. It is not vitamin D, calcium supplements, or magnesium that achieve this, but specifically vitamin K2 in its MK7 form. The individual previously mentioned, whose calcium score was initially 836, consumed 50 grams of natto daily, approximately 2 teaspoons, which supplied around 200 micrograms of MK7. Over 3 years, their calcium score impressively regressed from 981 to 841, a clear demonstration of active disease reversal attributed directly to K2. While natto remains a challenge for many due to its unique taste, alternative sources include aged cheeses like Gouda, Brie, and Edam, which contain moderate amounts of K2, around 10 to 20 micrograms per ounce. However, a therapeutic dose would require consuming several ounces daily, which might be impractical. The more accessible alternative is supplementation. MK7 supplements are widely available, with typical study-backed dosages ranging from 180 to 360 micrograms per day. This dosage is considered safe as K2 does not interfere with blood clotting or blood thinners, making it one of the safest supplements. However, food sources are generally preferred when feasible. Therefore, the third crucial component of this meal is either natto, if tolerated, 50 grams daily, or approximately 3 ounces of aged Gouda cheese incorporated into the meal, or an MK7 supplement, 180 micrograms, taken concurrently. This intervention activates MGP, effectively halting calcium deposition in your arteries and initiating the removal of existing calcium. The result is increased vascular flexibility and a stabilized or decreasing calcium score. Yet, calcification is not the sole adversary. One more critical mechanism must be addressed: oxidation. Recall that the formation of plaque begins when LDL particles traverse the endothelium and undergo oxidation. If this initial oxidation can be prevented, the entire destructive cascade can be averted. Without oxidized LDL, there are no macrophages to engulf it, no foam cells to form, and consequently, no plaque development. The key to preventing LDL oxidation lies in specific antioxidants, particularly those with the unique ability to bind directly to LDL particles and protect them. Among the most potent of these are the punicalagins, a class of polyphenols abundantly found in pomegranates, concentrated primarily in the seeds and the surrounding membranes. Punicalagins possess an extraordinary property. They physically bind to LDL particles, effectively coating them and thereby shielding the fats and proteins within the LDL from attack by free radicals. As a result, the LDL cannot oxidize, and if it remains unoxidized, the immune system does not perceive it as a foreign threat. Macrophages are not activated, foam cells do not form, and plaque cannot grow. This protective mechanism has been validated in human studies. For instance, researchers observed a reduction in carotid intima media thickness, a direct measure of plaque burden in the carotid arteries, in individuals who consumed pomegranate juice for a year. The underlying mechanism revealed a dramatic decrease in LDL oxidation as the LDL particles became resistant to oxidation due to their coating of punicalagins. Beyond this, pomegranate also enhances paraoxinase activity. Paraoxinase is an enzyme that associates with HDL particles, and its function is to break down oxidized lipids, effectively cleaning up oxidized LDL and safeguarding the vessel wall from oxidative damage. Individuals with higher paraoxinase activity exhibit lower rates of cardiovascular disease, and pomegranate consumption has been shown to increase this vital enzyme. Consequently, your HDL becomes more protective, more functional, and more efficient at facilitating reverse cholesterol transport. This multifaceted benefit makes pomegranate the fourth essential component of this meal. However, it is crucial to use the whole fruit, specifically the arils, the seed sacs, rather than pomegranate juice, which is often excessively high in sugar. The arils are crunchy, tart, delicious, and densely packed with punicalagins. 1 cup of pomegranate arils typically provides approximately 300 milligrams of punicalagins, which constitutes a therapeutic dose. These can be added to your arugula salad, offering not only vital oxidation protection, but also an appealing texture, flavor, and vibrant color. Now, let's synthesize these powerful components into the complete meal, the arterial remodeling protocol. Begin with a generous bowl, adding 2 to 3 cups of fresh arugula. This provides your essential nitrates, 300 to 500 millimolars, which your salivary glands will concentrate, and your oral bacteria will convert into nitrite, leading to the production of nitric oxide. Next, incorporate 1 cup of fresh pomegranate arils. These supply the crucial punicalagins that will bind to your LDL, prevent oxidation, and halt the formation of foam cells. Drizzle the salad generously with 3 to 4 tablespoons of high phenolic, extra virgin olive oil. This introduces oleocanthal, which will activate EBCA1, initiating the process of pulling cholesterol out of your foam cells. For the vitamin K2 component, if you can tolerate natto, add 50 grams alongside your salad. If not, opt for 3 ounces of aged Gouda cheese, crumbled over the salad, or take an MK7 supplement with the meal. This final step activates MGP, effectively halting calcium deposition and beginning the reversal of existing calcification. That, in its entirety, constitutes the meal. It is composed of simple whole foods, entirely devoid of processed ingredients, pills, or powders. It is food specifically selected for its bioactive compounds, food designed to activate the precise biological pathways your body requires to reverse arterial plaque. Now, it is important to address common objections, as they often arise. The first common concern revolves around the fat content. This meal has too much fat. Olive oil is pure fat, and you're recommending 4 tablespoons. That's 500 calories just from oil. The answer is yes, it is. However, those calories, in this specific context, are not the problem. The pervasive low-fat dogma has unfortunately had a detrimental impact on cardiovascular health in many regions. For over 5 decades, the consistent advice to avoid fat and consume more carbohydrates, grains, and sugar has coincided with a dramatic rise in obesity and diabetes rates, while heart disease, has remained the leading cause of mortality. This is because fat itself is not the enemy. The true culprits are oxidized LDL, chronic inflammation, and dysfunctional HDL. Paradoxically, low-fat diets often exacerbate all these issues. When dietary fat is severely restricted, particularly beneficial fats, HDL levels tend to drop, thereby impairing the efficiency of reverse cholesterol transport and making it more difficult to remove cholesterol from foam cells, allowing plaque to grow. Furthermore, low-fat diets, often replaced by high carbohydrate intake, can lead to increased triglyceride levels as the liver converts excess carbohydrates into fat. These fats are then packaged into very low-density lipoprotein, VLDL particles, which are even more prone to oxidation and inflammation than LDL, further contributing to plaque formation. Moreover, low-fat diets can promote the formation of small, dense LDL particles, the most hazardous type, which more easily penetrate the vessel wall, oxidize readily, and contribute significantly to plaque burden. Thus, adopting a low-fat, high-carb dietary pattern can paradoxically worsen an individual's lipid profile. In contrast, when the right types of fats, such as olive oil and omega-3s, are consumed, the lipid profile typically improves. HDL levels increase, ABCA1 is activated, reverse cholesterol transport becomes more efficient, triglycerides decrease, and LDL particles become larger and more buoyant, making them less likely to penetrate the arterial wall and oxidize. This is precisely why the Mediterranean diet consistently demonstrates superior cardiovascular outcomes. Despite being high in fat, often 40% of calories from fat, it emphasizes quality fats from olive oil, nuts, and fish. The efficacy of this diet highlights that the issue is not merely the quantity of fat, but its quality and its profound impact on metabolic processes. The second common objection is, I can't eat this meal every day. It's too much, too expensive, too time-consuming. Such a sentiment indicates a fundamental misunderstanding of the commitment required to reverse arterial plaque. This is not a casual dietary suggestion, it is a dedicated medical protocol. If a prescription medication were issued with instructions to take it daily, adherence would be expected. This meal functions as medicine, activating biological pathways that conventional medications often cannot. Therefore, it must be consumed every single day without exception. Regarding cost, it is true that high-quality olive oil, fresh pomegranates, and aged cheese represent an investment. However, consider the profound costs associated with a heart attack, bypass surgery, or a lifetime of disability. This meal, at an estimated daily cost of $10 to $15, amounts to $300 to $450 per month, a fraction of the tens of thousands required for critical cardiac interventions or the immeasurable cost of lost health and life. This meal serves as an exceptionally cost-effective form of health insurance. Make its daily consumption non-negotiable. As for the time commitment, preparing this meal typically takes no more than 10 minutes. This involves washing arugula, de-seeding a pomegranate, and drizzling olive oil. If 10 minutes cannot be allocated daily to safeguard one's life, then a re-evaluation of priorities may be necessary. The third objection often raised is, what about the studies showing that antioxidant supplements don't work? This observation is correct. Isolated antioxidant supplements, such as vitamin E, vitamin C, or beta-carotene pills, have largely failed to demonstrate a reduction in cardiovascular events in large-scale studies, with some even showing increased mortality. However, this is not what this protocol advocates. We are not discussing isolated, synthetic vitamins in pill form. Instead, we are focused on whole foods, which contain thousands of compounds that work synergistically. Pomegranates, for instance, do not contain a single antioxidant, but rather dozens of polyphenols, anthocyanins, and tannins, all functioning in concert. These compounds exert effects far beyond simple antioxidation. They activate genes, modulate inflammation, and interact beneficially with gut bacteria. Such intricate synergy cannot be replicated by a single pill. This fundamental difference explains why food-based interventions often succeed where supplement-based interventions fail. The compounds in whole foods are naturally bioavailable, presented in their optimal form, delivered with cofactors that enhance absorption and metabolized by gut bacteria into active metabolites. A pomegranate, therefore, is not merely a vitamin C pill, it is a complex biological pharmacy containing hundreds of compounds with overlapping and synergistic effects, which accounts for its profound efficacy. The fourth objection commonly encountered is, my healthcare provider told me to take a statin. Isn't that enough? The answer is no, not entirely. Statins are effective at lowering LDL cholesterol, thereby reducing the amount of LDL circulating in the bloodstream. This action can slow plaque growth and potentially stabilize existing plaque. However, statins do not actively reverse plaque in the same comprehensive manner as the described meal. Statins do not activate ABCA1, nor do they directly enhance reverse cholesterol transport to pull cholesterol out of foam cells. They do not halt calcification or prevent LDL oxidation. Their primary role is to reduce the number of LDL cholesterol. While lowering LDL is undeniably important and discontinuing statins without medical guidance is not recommended. Statins alone are insufficient for complete plaque reversal. The earlier example of an individual whose calcium score continued to rise despite being on a high-dose statin, which reduced LDL significantly, illustrates this point. The statin was not addressing the underlying mechanisms of ABCA1 activation, reverse cholesterol transport, or calcification. Therefore, a dual approach is necessary: statins to effectively lower LDL and a targeted dietary protocol to activate the crucial physiological pathways for true reversal. When combined, these interventions work powerfully. In isolation, they often fall short. It is imperative to understand the motivation behind sharing this detailed information. There is a deep weariness of witnessing individuals undergoing invasive surgeries, chest crackings, and bypass grafts, who could have potentially avoided such interventions if they had been adequately informed about how to reverse their disease. The prevailing low-fat dogma, the unwarranted apprehension surrounding olive oil, and the disproportionate obsession with cholesterol numbers at the expense of understanding actual biological mechanisms have contributed to countless avoidable health crises. Watching patients diligently adhere to standard medical advice, trust their doctors, and yet still succumb to severe cardiovascular events is a profound catalyst for disseminating this knowledge. This channel aims to share the unvarnished truth, the mechanisms, the pathways, and the authentic science, not diluted or simplified versions, nor guidelines influenced by various vested interests, but the factual understanding of how the body truly works and how disease can be reversed. If this information is valued and more such content is desired, active participation is essential. First, subscribing to this platform is crucial as algorithms can be unforgiving. Without subscriptions and engagement, valuable content can be suppressed, preventing others who desperately need this information, like someone with a dangerously high calcium score, from discovering the vital knowledge about ABCA1, MGP, and punicalagins. Such individuals might otherwise follow conventional advice and experience tragic outcomes. A subscription helps ensure this information reaches a wider audience. Second, leaving a comment, perhaps sharing your calcium score, your intention to try this meal, or whether your healthcare provider has ever explained these mechanisms, tells the platform that this content is valuable and should be recommended to more people. Each comment has the potential to save a life. Third, sharing this video widely via text, email, or social media with anyone who has cardiovascular disease, high cholesterol, a history of heart attack or stroke, or a family history of these conditions, is an act of profound importance. Someone at this very moment might be recovering from a cardiac event, grappling with questions of prevention. This video could offer them answers, but only if it reaches them. Share it now. Now let's detail the specifics, the exact amounts, timing, and preparation to ensure optimal results. For sourcing arugula, purchase it fresh. And while organic is preferable for cleanliness, no pesticides, Conventional arugula surprisingly often has a higher nitrate content due to nitrogen fertilizers. Choose based on your priorities. Aim for 2 to 3 cups daily. For pomegranates, buy whole fruits and learn to deseed them. It typically takes about 5 minutes. Alternatively, prepackaged Arterials are available, though more expensive, offering convenience. Consume 1 cup daily. Olive oil selection is critical. Invest in high phenolic extra virgin olive oil. Look for brands that explicitly advertise their polyphenol content. Ideally at least 250 mg per kilogram, with higher concentrations being more beneficial. Ensure it's in a dark glass bottle, check the harvest date, and aim to use it within 6 months of opening. 4 tablespoons per day is the target. For natto, if you are adventurous, it can be found in the frozen section of Asian grocery stores. Thaw 1 50-gram container overnight and consume it daily. If natto is simply intolerable, opt for aged Gouda cheese, preferably aged 5 years or more, as longer aging correlates with higher K2 content. Consume approximately 3 ounces daily. As an alternative, an MK7 supplement, 180 micrograms daily taken with food from reputable brands is a viable option. Regarding timing, consuming this meal once per day is sufficient. Lunch is often preferred because the peak nitric oxide production occurs roughly 2 to 3 hours after ingesting the nitrates, aligning elevated nitric oxide levels with afternoon activity when optimal blood flow is most beneficial. However, dinner is also acceptable, provided consistency is maintained daily. For preparation, wash the arugula, pat it dry, and place it in a large bowl. Add the pomegranate Arterials. Drizzle generously with 4 tablespoons of the high phenolic olive oil and toss. Season with salt and pepper to taste if desired. Consume the meal slowly, chewing thoroughly to allow the nitrates to mix extensively with your saliva. The bacteria on your tongue require sufficient contact time to efficiently convert nitrate to nitrite, so avoid rushing. If incorporating natto, consume it separately as its potent flavor might overwhelm the salad. If using cheese, crumble it over the salad. If opting for a supplement, take it with the first bite of the meal. Equally important is understanding what not to do. Absolutely refrain from using mouthwash ever. This point bears repetition because it is paramount. Mouthwash eradicates the crucial bacteria that convert nitrate to nitrite, rendering the entire protocol ineffective. Simple brushing and flossing are sufficient for oral hygiene. Do not omit the olive oil in an attempt to reduce calories. The olive oil is not an optional ingredient. The oleocanthal it contains is essential for activating ABCA1. Consuming the salad without the specific olive oil means foregoing a key mechanism for cholesterol removal. Furthermore, avoid low-quality olive oil, as cheap versions are often adulterated with inferior seed oils, oxidized or rancid, and will not provide the necessary bioactive compounds. Invest in high-quality olive oil. Do not substitute arugula with spinach. Spinach contains oxalates that can interfere with calcium absorption, whereas arugula does not. Stick to arugula. Lastly, do not assume this meal is a magic bullet that allows for unhealthy eating the rest of the day. This protocol is part of a comprehensive approach. It necessitates avoiding seed oils, added sugars, and refined carbohydrates, and embracing a diet rich in whole, unprocessed foods. This specific meal serves as a powerful foundation, but the rest of your dietary structure must also be supportive. For monitoring progress, objective measures are vital, extending beyond mere subjective feelings. A baseline calcium score should be obtained, followed by a repeat scan in 18 to 24 months. A stable or decreasing score indicates success. An increasing score signals that adjustments are needed. An advanced lipid panel beyond basic total cholesterol and LDL is crucial. This should include LDL particle number, LDL particle size, HDL particle number, apolipoprotein B, ApoB, and lipoprotein A, LPA. These markers provide far more insightful data. Desired targets include an LDL particle number below 1000, predominantly large buoyant LDL particles, a high HDL particle number, and an ApoB below 80. A carotid ultrasound measuring intima media thickness, plaque burden in carotid arteries should also be considered, with annual repeats to observe decreasing or stable thickness. Finally, a high-sensitivity C-reactive protein, hsCRP, test measures systemic inflammation. The goal is below 1.0 ppg/L, ideally below 0.5. Elevated levels indicate inflammation requiring further attention. While these tests incur costs, they provide invaluable objective data to confirm the protocol's efficacy or guide necessary modifications. The question then arises, why is this information not widely known or part of standard medical care? The answer lies in systemic issues within medical education. Healthcare professionals are primarily trained in pharmacology and surgical procedures, not in the nuanced understanding of nutrition or the detailed cellular mechanisms by which food impacts health. The average medical curriculum often dedicates minimal time to nutrition, less than 20 hours over 4 years, mostly focusing on basic biochemistry rather than practical applications of food in gene expression, transporter activation, or endothelial function restoration. Residency and fellowship programs typically offer no further nutrition training. Doctors are educated to manage and treat established diseases, not to prevent or reverse them. The prevailing paradigm views atherosclerosis as a chronic, progressive condition managed with statins, stenting severe blockages, or bypass surgery when stenting is not feasible. The concept of reversal is often dismissed as impossible, yet scientific research unequivocally demonstrates that reversal is indeed possible. Studies published decades ago showed that intensive lifestyle interventions could effectively reverse coronary artery disease, with angiograms revealing shrinking plaques and resolved symptoms in patients with severe disease who adopted plant-based diets. These peer-reviewed findings published in prominent journals are often overlooked because there is limited financial incentive in lifestyle interventions. Arugula cannot be patented, nor can exorbitant fees be charged for olive oil. Pharmaceutical companies, which heavily fund medical research, continuing medical education, and conferences, naturally prioritize interventions involving their drugs. This explains why conventional advice often focuses on statins and low-fat diets. It reflects the training and guidelines currently in place. It is not an indictment of individual practitioners, but rather a reflection of a flawed system where time and education constraints prevent comprehensive understanding of nutritional science. Given these systemic challenges, individuals must take proactive control of their health by educating themselves, understanding the underlying mechanisms, and implementing effective strategies. This empowerment is the cornerstone of true arterial health. Remember the initial message. Your arteries are not inert pipes, plaque is not mere grease, and simplistic cleanses are ineffective. However, you possess the power to activate reverse cholesterol transport, halt calcification, restore nitric oxide production, prevent oxidation, and thereby actively reverse the disease. This is achieved one meal, one mechanism, one day at a time, until your calcium score declines, your plaque regresses, and the need for invasive surgery becomes a distant concern. This transformative potential is precisely why this vital information is being shared. Embrace this meal. Activate these pathways. Begin the process of healing your arteries.